It's such a great feeling that we're barely 2 weeks away from Christmas. Good morning and welcome to news here on New Day. My name is Josh Quinn. We are live on DSTV channel 279. And coming up in the next 30 minutes, the Ghana Geological Survey Authority warns of an imminent earthquake after tremors hit part of Accra Sunday morning. And calm returns to the Ghana Institute of Journalism after student protests last Sunday over failure to sit end of semester examinations. And to our very own Abena emerges winner of the grand finale of Ghana's Most Beautiful, and she was representing the Eastern region. And on the foreign front, Lion Air says November passenger numbers fell less than 5% after deadly crash. And details of this and many more coming up in the next 30 minutes. My name is Josh Quinn. On to our very first story. President Akufo-Addo has left Ghana for a 3-day official visit to Japan at the invitation of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The president was accompanied by the Minister for Foreign Affairs Shirley Ayokoboche, Deputy Minister for Finance Charles Edubuahin, and officials from the Presidency and Foreign Ministry. The visit is aimed at deepening the already strong relations that exist between the two countries and to explore areas of further cooperation to their mutual benefit. Whilst in Japan, President Akufo-Addo will pay a courtesy call on the Emperor of Japan, His Majesty Akihito, and hold meetings with CEOs of some important Japanese companies. President Akufo-Addo will also attend a joint Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Japan External Trade Organization business seminar, and meet with members of the Ghanaian community resident in Japan. The president will return to Ghana on Friday, 14th of December 2018. An outcome has returned to the Ghana Institute of Journalism after students who could not register for the end of semester examinations were given a second chance. Though some students who could not finish paying their fees have been denied access to the exam hall, examination has been smoothly ongoing. Here's a report by Godfrey Tanam.
The news team's visit to the campus of the Ghana Institute of Journalism on Sunday, December 9, witnessed a calm atmosphere where students had finished writing their psychology paper. Students who were denied taking part in the exam were given another chance to register, although they had already missed out on some papers. On December 2, management of the institute asked internal security to lock up the school following a protest by some students in solidarity with their colleagues who have been denied from writing their papers for failing to pay the required fees and non-registration of exam. The protest led to the cancellation of 2 papers in the school's first semester exam for undergraduate and postgraduate students. At an emergency news conference by management, Students and Graduate Students Association of Ghana, the re-registration and the writing of the cancelled papers were announced. This brought some relief to students and management, leading to the current calm atmosphere on the campus.
And that was Godfrey Tanam coming through with that report. And now government is to construct 7 hospitals and hostels for the Cured Lepers Society of Ghana in January next year. The facilities, according to government, is to reduce the stigmatization meted to the cured lepers whenever they access health care. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is confident the initiative will address the problems faced by cured lepers in the country.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, agreed to the construction of these facilities after he met members of the Cured Lepers Society of Ghana in Accra. He was saddened that cured lepers over the years have been stigmatized, including those who access health care. The situation has consistently posed a challenge to the Cured Lepers Association. Chairman of the Cured Lepers Aid Committee in Ghana, Father Andrew Campbell, pleaded with the Vice President to get them healthcare facilities to reduce the stigma.
The greatest problem we have as a Lepers Aid Committee is the stigma of leprosy in this country. The families of our dear mummies and daddies, the families, they dump them at wages, they dump them here, they dump them there. And the time they will come is when the person dies, and they'll want the body immediately. Because if they don't give that man a good burial, they feel the disease will come back to their village.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia promised to get the facilities constructed from January next year. He cautioned the public not to use their positions to stigmatize skilled lepers.
But if you love your neighbor as yourself, then you know that if something like that afflicts you, you don't want to be abandoned. You will never want to be abandoned. You want your family to still come and visit you, to still care for you. And so let us all be conscious of the fact that what we don't want to happen to us, we shouldn't allow it to happen to other people. That is the sense of love thy neighbor as thyself.
Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Cynthia Morrison, spoke about plans to enroll the Cure Lepers on the LEAP program.
We want to say a very big thank you for opening your house to us on such a beautiful day like this. People would have invited friends to come and dine with them. But just as you've invited these treasures, you also be God's treasure.
Command Fund Administrator Natoshi Ado underscored the need to increase the feeding grants of cured lepers throughout the country. The Vice President and his wife, Semira Bawumia, later fed members of the Cured Leper Society.
And certainly that was a great gesture there by the Vice President and his wife. And can you imagine having an emergency and the only way to get help is through a telephone call? For residents of Oku in the Setra Afram Plains north of the Ashanti region, mobile network service can only be accessed on top of a mango tree with limited guarantee. Peter Kwadato was in the major farming settlement and has filed the following report.
Hello. Jinaso, hello. Hello. Yeah, good morning. Let's say. Messi me buzaze kana. Oh. Hello.
Mobile telephone offers the most widespread and inclusive means of accessing the internet and is vital to the Ghanaian economy and its growth in an increasingly connected world. Mobile phones also provide information on weather patterns to aid farmers when to plant and which crop to plant in a particular season. Additionally, to market farm produce to reduce both harvest losses, among others, has been made easy through mobile connectivity. Ghana's mobile phone subscription is expected to hit about 40 million in the next 2 years, according to the National Communications Authority 2018 annual report. Yet for the people of Oku in the Setra Afram Plains north of the Ashanti region, they are further away from being part of these benefits. Oku is a predominantly farming community. Making a call or accessing any other service using the mobile phone is a challenge for residents here.
Hello. Hello.
To get connected to mobile network services, residents have to come to this place to wait around this mango tree or climb on top of the tree just to make or receive phone calls. There's no privacy here. The conversation has to be on top of one's voice in order to be heard.
Network mintu today. Metiduaso miss anyumbremesa for a while. Okay.
Charging the mobile device is another challenge for the people of Oku. The farming community lacks access to electricity. It costs 1 cedi to charge a mobile phone on solar energy or portable charging devices. We were told users of phones would have to trek 45 kilometers to Ijra to charge their phones. The phone is then switched on only when one intends to make a call or is expecting one. A resident, Jacob Kwabna Gungut, sums up the frustrations of the people.
You top at 500,000 per gallon. Oh, kuha. Edu moto smu. Me town wa 25. No profits. Adenti. Ekwane nye. Chemicals. Also obejai. Eka. Do tunyama na breya me ton obejai. Solar.
We depend solely on solar to charge our mobile phones, what comes with much difficulty. We need urgent help.
And Chief, some bedru dia esram. Mundum boame.
His wish and that of the rest of Oku and adjoining communities is an urgent attention from the mobile telecommunication service providers, at least to remain connected to the world.
And that was Peter Quadratow's report there from the Ashanti region. And if you're just tuning in, you're watching news here on New Day with me, George Quinn. And now the Ghana Geological Survey Authority has warned of an imminent earthquake following earth tremors that hit part of Accra Sunday morning. And that was around 7:50 thereabout. The tremors, which occurred at about 7:50 a.m. and lasted a few seconds, shook buildings, creating panic among residents in the capital.
The earth tremor is reported to have been felt in Oyibi, some parts of Wejagbawe, in the Gassaut municipality of the Greater Accra region, and Kasua in the Central region on Sunday morning. The stretch is a well-known earthquake zone. Some residents in Wejagbawe, Ablekuma, and their environs say they heard the sound of a big bang on their roofs and the ground shook. A resident at Ablekuma observed his building shook. Some residents in Kasua also felt the tremors. I was watching TV when I felt that the ground was shaking. I was told it was earth tremor.
7 o'clock.
It occurred after 7 a.m. when we were doing our laundry and lasted for about 3 minutes. The ground shook. I thought it was normal, but I was told it was earthquake. The Geological Survey Authority says signs picked up show that the default lines are active, which means an earthquake can occur at any time. The authority says there is cause to worry, especially where the tremor occurred, have human exposure, buildings and societal activities. On December 4, at a meet-the-press encounter in Accra, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Kweku Asumachreme, noted the occurrence of earthquake continues to threaten the country.
In order to mitigate the impact of earthquake in the southern sector of the country, mapping and risk assessment in Nyanyano, Weja, Makati Hills, and surrounding areas were carried out to generate an updated geohazard risk map for planning and decision making. Power outage continues to hamper earthquake monitoring in the country. In order to carry out the 24/7 monitoring of earthquakes in Ghana, government has approved the installation of solar power at the Authority Earthquake Seismic Observatory.
He noted government would resource the Ghana Geological Survey Authority with modern equipment in order to help the authority pick up early warning signals. The authority must also bridge the communications gap between it and the general public on time-bound and accurate information. The severest earthquake yet in Ghana was experienced 79 years ago on June 22, 1939, with a magnitude of 6.4 on the Richter scale. Since then, there has been a series of earthquakes in more recent times. The most recent, with a 5.9 magnitude and a 33-kilometer depth, occurred on September 26, 2007. 21 years ago, on March 6, 1997, another measuring 4.4 in magnitude and with a depth of 10 kilometers occurred 6.2 kilometers from Bawe. Eben Ejekumbuatin, TV3, Accra.
Having endured difficult times learning from congested rooms, pupils of Manwe Primary School in Y East in the Upper West region have now been relieved. The school has now been divided into two after Mission's advocacy saw the rehabilitation of two nearly collapsed structures. Brandon Amfort report, what is left is to provide furniture to ensure a conducive environment for learning.
My visit to Manwe Primary School was full of expectation. How has Mission's advocacy impacted on pupils? This was a learning environment in early 2017.
How many things you are supposed to do before you come to school? The first thing you do is what?
these two rooms were near collapse. The Education Directorate said classrooms were a challenge.
The assemblies normally I send my report to them, but it looks as if they are not able to meet my demand. In some cases, possibly in a year they might put up 1 classroom or 3 classrooms.
The assembly said funding was difficult to come by.
A free compulsory basic education has gone down well with the people of Wa East, and they are sending their awards to the schools, and that alone has even increased enrollment figures in most of the schools in Wa East. There's every indication that such schools are supposed to be splitted.
Series of interactions then began yielding results. The Assembly's 2018 budget was to be used to rehabilitate these two structures so as to enable pupils get a conducive environment to study. Middle of 2018, the two structures looked entirely different, well fixed, painted, and ready to serve pupils. Teachers and pupils are now excited.
Because the class sizes are now reduced, teachers are able to do their work effectively. They are able to reach out to every student who has a special need.
But the school still has some challenges. Furniture was divided between primary A and B, and so some classes still learn on the floor. New classrooms, but other challenges popping up. The Assembly says it is ready to deal with the challenges.
We have also started a process because we have awarded a contract to somebody to provide a good number of furniture which will be distributed to schools in the district that are lacking furniture or that are having insufficient furniture to accommodate pupils in classrooms. So very soon, before Christmas, we are very hopeful that the furniture will be handed over to Assembly.
Parents cannot see their kids on the floor. They have put in their support. This will cushion the kids for the meantime.
Right from the separation, we realized that most of the students were on the floor. We held a PTA meeting and appealed to the parents. Then they said, okay, if that was the case, then they will have to look at that of the GHS first. And luckily on our part, they were able to do something, and then we got 23 seats, dual decks for the 26 rather for the GHS, and now we're having about 48 for the primary school.
The people of Manwe are poised to take the education of their people serious, and teachers and education authorities are also ready to put in their support.
A year ago when we came here, this structure you're seeing here was in a dilapidated state, near collapse. Students were congested in the main school structure. Today, the building is in quite good shape and it is being used by pupils. What is needed now is a furniture for these kids to sit down. A whole class has just a few furniture to allow kids to learn. The Assembly, the PTA are working hard to get furniture for these students. From Manwe in Wa East, right Nanamfo, TV3.
And now to our very own, and a 19-year-old Abena representing the Eastern region has been adjudged the winner of this year's Ghana's Most Beautiful Beauty Pageant. She narrowly beat competition from 3 other finalists, Ohima from the Bonafo region, Wekia from the Upper East region, and Afra from the Ashanti region, to wear the coveted crown and they hold the bragging rights for the next year. Abena, who has been consistent with her performances throughout the 13-week competition and won the most coveted star performer title 4 times, proved at the grand finale on Sunday night that she was the obvious choice for the crown, cash and the car. congratulations go out to Ama for winning this year's Ghana's Most Beautiful, and Abina Mase for winning this year's Ghana's Most Beautiful. And now to the foreign front, Lion Air said on Monday passenger numbers dropped by less than 5% in November compared to a year earlier, after one of its Boeing CO 737 MAX jet crashed in late October, killing all 189 people on board the flight. There was a decline, but it wasn't too significant, the airline CEO Edward Sirat told television network CNN Indonesia. It was under 5% compared to the traffic at the same month last year. He said Lion Air did not clearly understand whether their crash was responsible for the fall in traffic in November, which he said was a low season for travel. The airline, Indonesia's largest, is privately owned and does not publicly release traffic statistics or financial results. And that's how we end news here on New Day. You can get more news updates on our website, s3news.com. I'm Josh Queenie. Thanks for watching. New Day continues right after this break. Good morning.
To you there. And certainly the King was born on Christmas Day, a very, very joyous day for Christians across the world. Good morning out to you there. If you're getting ready to be part of Christmas, this is where you need to be. New Day has just started. It's a Monday morning, fresh, a week starting, and we are fresh and ready to serve you breakfast from now till 9 a.m. My name is Brad. I'm not here alone. Noam Fallon is here.
My name is
the rest of the crew have taken leave. It's a casual leave. Yes. We'll be back very soon.
The Christmas spirit is building up.
Yeah,
I'm sure, Bright, you're feeling the Christmas more now.
Yeah, but if you talk about seeing decor and fine.
Does the decor excite you? Does it get you in the mood?
It really doesn't for me.
Well, today is the 10th, so it means in 15 more days,
okay.
And that's it for Christmas.
Okay.
So we'll be talking about Christmas shopping right here on Noonday. Yeah. We're also going to be talking about the earth tremor that occurred yesterday. Some people reported experiencing an earth tremor. It went as far as the Dodowa boundary. There were some people around the Valley View University who experienced the same. It went North Legon, Bawe, Kaswa, as far as Kaswa. I'm not sure exactly the intensity from neighborhood to neighborhood. But it also went as far as Sakumono. I didn't feel it anyway.
I was out of crap, but I got the news. For me, for those around Weja, Bawe, and then some parts of Kaswa, for me it's not strange. The North Legon guys and then a few other people, the Sakumono area is where I'm a bit surprised about it, because, I mean, for the Weja, Bawe, Kaswa, parts of Kaswa, this is not the first time. It's happened before. And so I was surprised when I got to know the other areas around Sakumono, North Legon also experienced it. But what is it that we have to do? I'm sure those in charge will be
the Geological Service will be here on the program to talk about that. I don't know if you also watched the final show of Ghana's Most Beautiful,
I did,
where the Queen was finally crowned.
I was actually driving on a highway, and every stop that we made on the journey, we saw people gathered around TV sets watching very late into the night. It was exciting, and Abena, the Queen for 2018. Well, Eastern region once again. For some, they thought the Bona of region would have been.
But she was the first runner-up. People always have their favorites where these things are concerned.
Exactly the point.
And you know what they say? Most of the people who complain are those who do not actually vote. So until you are actually actively voting for the contestant you prefer, then you really cannot complain. We also have Wekia from the Upper East region who came in third.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So she was the second runner-up.
She
put up quite a good performance. I watched some of snippets of the show anytime we took a stop. And
all the ladies, it was quite competitive.
Yeah, it was. It was. I am sure that it tells us that indeed the next season will be great. Looking at what we saw yesterday, I mean, I saw the ladies when they came in first. 13 weeks, what has done to them, and I've been getting the bragging rights and driving home that sleek
driving home a beautiful car.
What a Christmas for her. I wish I could be in her position, but Abena is the person to take a look at. A very exciting moment for her. Christmas, sleek car, a lot of goodies, bragging rights.
Imagine having a brand new car for Christmas. Wouldn't that make your Christmas?
Well, it should. It should make your Christmas.
It would make my Christmas.
I'm sure she's going to share everything that she got yesterday.
share with?
Oh, I mean,
you can share your car. It's just one car.
No, I don't refuse gifts.
Are you putting yourself up for?
At least if she gives you the car for 2 months to use and then she can pick it up, that's fine.
And then we're also going to take some newspaper headlines.
Okay, a lot of
right here.
The farmers are all over in the news.
They are.
Yes, after the celebration last Friday, and so we'll have a lot to talk about them. The government's attempt at making sure farming gets the best of opportunities there. We'll take a look at how government intends to boost agriculture. We're told that government will buy $216 million worth of implements. We'll talk about them later.
Well, the Daily Statesman, new policy signals hope for artisanal miners and how politicians trick the poor and steal their votes. That's an interesting story. It's on page 11 of the Daily Statesman. Big push for our farmers. We want to transform agriculture, says Akufo-Addo. And the NPP feds John Agyekum Kufuor at 80. The former president, he turned 80. Over the weekend. Akufo-Addo government delivering fulfilling promises. That's coming from Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. It's on page 2 of the Independent, and Vice President feds cured lepers at his residence. An interesting one there. Also the Daily Heritage, food cheap but high transport fares are killing us. That's coming from Traders. Also, name Y University after Dombo Akufo-Addo. Page 3 of the Daily Heritage. Government wraps farmers and fisher folk, promises to pay fees of wards to PhD level. That's an interesting one. We'll get into the details shortly. It's on page 3 of the Daily Heritage. And NDC raised Eliklim quits to back Mahama. That was a very surprising move. Nobody was expecting. The Ghanaian Times, small-scale mining, new policy coming on Friday. And Volkswagen, Nissan, Sinotruk start operations in Ghana next year. Earth tremor hits parts of Accra. That's one story we're going to be getting into here on Noonday. President commissions Lord's Mini Stadium. We also go to the Finder, where government to buy $216 million implements to boost agriculture mechanization. That's coming from the president. Earth tremors again as fear grips residents of Botiano Hills. The RTI bill may enter 2019. Majority leader, not very good news. Most people are expecting that bill to be passed before the end of the year. Government to announce new mining policy framework. And Dr. Bawumia and family fed cured lepers. That's all we have for the newspaper headlines.
All right, so very interesting items on the newspapers this morning. And
looks like a lot of people are actually afraid that there will be an earthquake because of the earth tremor.
Is that what the Geological Service is suggesting? But it is something you cannot stop it, you cannot prevent it. So once we are aware, once we're told that this is the situation and this is how to manage it, then that's fine. Because for areas around Weja, those areas that are prone to earth tremors, if indeed the earthquake is happening or is about to happen as we're being told, then the residents there will just need to be very careful. Find a way to make sure that they're safe. And you need
to know exactly the first steps to take if you suspect, if something like that starts happening, and where to go for shelter. Very important.
And of course, open spaces were told the best, but we just pray that it doesn't come in the middle of the night when everyone is asleep. That's if it will come at all. Also on the front pages, I am excited about government's attempt to push agriculture. The Statesman talks about that, big push for our farmers. The Finder, same. The Heritage has a similar story. The key thing is how well these talk will see its execution and implementation. Now, farming, we're told, is what holds the key to our economy being what we want it to be. But how do we get these talk on the ground and make them become a reality? We're buying the implements, as we're told by the Finder. Will they get to the people who we're supposed to get to? We know what is happening to even the fertilizer that a farmer is using. Those are the grassroots aren't getting it. Now, government has made a lot of inroads. The Planting for Food and Jobs has created a lot of food. I mean, if you go to the hinterlands, you find food very cheap there. But come to the urban centers, it is not the same. Transportation is the missing gap. The roads are bad. Now, if we're buying $260 million dollars worth of implements, and yet the roads remain bad, it means that all this money will go to waste.
Yes.
Because you take the implement
you cannot
to the farmer,
maximize the benefits
exactly
without
the
good
point.
roads.
So the talk is good, but let us make sure that it doesn't end there. Our roads are good enough to get the commodities to the market. Then we can have a lot more to eat. So those are some of the stories you can see here. And of course, the mining issue. Has government finally lifted the ban on mining? Is that the
well,
situation?
They are hinting at it. They haven't clearly stated that they will be lifting the ban, but there's a specific date, and then there's going
some
to
of
be
them can go back to mining.
So what we're doing this morning also, we're going to be looking at Christmas prices. Do they change during the Christmas season? How are you preparing to avoid price hikes during the Christmas period? That's what we're ranting about this morning. So let's rant.
Nobody here knocking at my door. This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like.
Good morning and welcome to Daily Rant here on New Day. My name is George Quinn and we are live on DSTV channel 279. And Christmas is barely some few days away, and I went to some market to gauge the mood, and the complaints from traders were that people are not buying their wares, and items like cooking oil, rice and biscuit, which should run out of stock, are still in large quantities. And some shop owners are also complaining that people are always window shopping. Is this the normal song or the normal chorus they always sing? And what really accounts for this? And so we want to engage people who buy these stuff. This is Daily Rant. Let's keep talking.
Posted that says 6-7 years below, and traders now start some complaining that way. They are complaining that way because they say no, more rural areas, no, more farmers, our villages, no. Some map up strategy. 2-3 months to Christmas, no. Making sure say, harvest now. They also keep it because they say, I know people are almost direct to Branga Hafu, Kumasi, Central, all those places to buy the product, normal store in their houses. Bibi say go, me say me to 2 goats say, me the Free Eastern region the brand me. Cheaper from there than say the market no matter. So I think say a change trend because of now no. They are also wising up. Like as almost they need the money. Into this one, it has nothing to do with it has and I say the government no.
Say the way I never know Krunwaidi. Impini for answer say Krunwaidi.
What about politics ana?
Oh, they been for politics. I didn't say I did change this yeni a chrono costro. The year expect say Krun nyamba from. And as also study farmers in this year. He said they are complaining about transportation. And I dodgy for them see there are 2 petrol now so you are in 2 aquitium we lorry fare drivers na tum. And to tum say okofaba na so betis wa. Ebe ne car. Ntu said there any krom de scan ikron mu na so enye nke so yen politics in frame wu akwara na ni ya de we odidi nu onyinu na increase ene say Ghana so ye dosun amafo abaga na mu too much enti na say ye aye wo kron mu no je say ade ne ensuye enti normal ye fa say normal prices in there enye say omo di bia to so normal
is it normal
enye normal because me I don't believe say to adem obia obia say I say ye to adem no
fact tapes and stories so they be every year. Last year when last year they be it's always been there.
But the point is that then as a trader make anything say you what will I gain? I'm not getting anything from lying. Over the years say na economy some say maybe they are justified. Which I say everybody knows that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody knows. Who knows?
Everybody knows.
I don't know.
Even the president admits, say we are in hard times. The current president.
I don't know about that one, but I don't know.
But who is that? Now to see.
I know about that one. Yeah.
Once our president, like I say,
but he's not your president.
Yeah, okay, your president.
Okay.
What's the Kroma ID? Only my one gentleman. What's the Kroma ID? So do you doubt him? You don't have to doubt him. Okay. Ono kita Jessica Asem. Ono ni sena Kronu call Eba. It is also a idea. Onu post a idea. That means be the idea.
I don't know your person idea. No, look complicated. Bisa. Titina. Ebedru Christmas and Crofoko market cotton yama gidi. That time you need BA. Na Ghana to say.
Okay, can you explain me?
Yeah, na Ghana. You need BA with certain things because a moon once and obedi a mono. To say Christmas no obedi a moon. Obedi akokwa. Christmas no obedi akokwa. Say ya TSA no. Every day you dey moon. Every day you read akokwa na you know. Every day you read biscuit. Every day you nom drink. Until then, so special about Christmas in here. Say, do that is your open semi market, better rice. Better, I'm all fear that. Wow.
I think everything is making a point.
It's not making any point. Point me no.
I used to know. When I was a kid, chicken, maybe chicken, a program.
Crackers, biscuits. And no percent are we auditor. Master, you don't politics. But this time, I say, can say, I buy no sebi on Shana on ye because. Media them point at me one no yen crossing no adwane wo anya bi see enua biscuit e crossing see enua biscuit enso e fa sa adwane sem bantini we na make na obi badwa so na obeton ade na oton fufu na obi ba beto a onu po onya bibi kakra e den onu so beto koton
unim live say ka say asamo kan it is still exists here. We are in the urban areas. We say we eat this every day.
Yeah.
When you go to the villages, this is the same time. Okay, once a year. And I make no because Okanopa and Opoko school already bunku. Oba obedi bunku. It is me no so Okano. She yedi semedi emu enia and azumedi. We can't. We don't sit eating rice. It's Christmas simple. I'll go to the market.
They don't have any case there.
There's no case. There's no complaint here. Say, as I'm Livingston Livingstone can home. Your dear Moody, your dinner, baby. Now, so who's there? First, say, Bruna Bar, Mitimito bag me, Echo Chobi, and Timmy Costa, Ebia Majibia Mamasio, Majibia Masu Bema, Matubi. And the market on say, and then economic go me buy my better 3-4. That's the one, yeah, 3-4, sir. Until the auto market, I say, because
this is all we are Pontina, baby. Now, so of course, also got to a Ponti. I don't know what to a Ponti.
Say cheaper there.
Cheaper there. Argentina, or no.
I say, gentle management and Sony. Yen pese be coin to politics more, but answer na Krumbe di market bedi. Ne free papa gentleman.
I say market we complaining here.
It's not there. Yes.
Almost say some complaining, bro. Na be almost complaining dey bia. I dey some money say no every day bia your badge. Say we got tomatoes. I mean tomatoes one series like before. You buy me turn the bulk. You buy 2 kitchen. You swear say anu kwa na odi floor dey bia. Asa no floor be sam. Asa na we got tomato e be stew. Obi dey asa, obi come market. One every chero. Itu asa ba wo kan ani. Say gentleman no odi any.
But here, I know me, my mom for instance, or my bomb. It's be a month, cause no come market.
It is a come market. Never me say, what's that? Yeah, well, never say deprived communities. One any channel. Yes. Make us say deprived because we don't buy things in installments. What I say, we buy say I don't know enu no one go talk. What I say? We are more very good. We know dey bia. It's say no any priority ma obi say o try bro na wa wi akoko na na wa wi apontinam. Because they be all win am.
Okay, but shop on the complain say window shop in the doors. Mo ba mo nta.
Ni ho. Fine. Sika ni ho.
Masa we say na ni say ye kuro ma ye.
Because Christmas. The point is that share. Let's not play. Make us a politics. Share. I believe me.
I believe say you want to be it's a normal song.
Onim. Ni amen person ka yen on my Ghana ye ni say. because me dey ma call Krobi to say Gambia. Excuse me to say. Me to me can say Gambia 10 years in Ghana. Never. Me South Africa crowd to me can say or 10 years in Ghana. But uko Krobi susano a dey friend grand sales e be do Christmas a. Ye reduce nyama mo bia nya buy Ghana ye nyesa nyama ni na bi. Tomatoes who the buy.
We don't do grand sales, straight fair. We don't do grand sales.
Straight fair, yeah. What's market women?
But no, but there are other places more to say they do sales there.
They should come to small market. No more reducing your money to me top.
Grand sales no fine. Ni malaria grand sales. Ni market no more grand sales.
I think they did it last week.
And grand sales. The point is that security system no that's all. So people are complaining.
So me sexual means kakao. Me sexual means.
Me just go fees.
Oh, say first Brunya. Say few we nu aduane a. Oti oh, di koma we. That no. And market nu okoto no ba kese. Sisi a on timi nua ema we. Ento okoto de oni ni busa bedi. Enti market man say oh, ene de ba go be na otoma me. Na say we de nyama no mu o. Which means market man say no, mami we oba nya ba ku na oto a onyani bebre no watem system no mu ID kakrenti on timi to say nye. Enti definitely market woman no. The auto 3 beto one na. Oga market no mu.
Oga system na oboa. Say na dey tell obi eduane on team obi ebusuane no. Okodi no kaka say me aka say wa poison. Oh, me no face reality. Oh.
Yes, I say
forget it as I know. I don't know what you put here.
But guys, let's hope say be a days but na be a no matter cost.
See, one commander see. What we need to be really? There be sign. Sign. Yes.
Let's anticipate say be okay.
Must anticipate there. Anticipate there.
And I'm gonna say, yeah, papa nkasa wadi kaka say.
No credit okay. No credit about ko. It is so be about out. I board that can say. You should respect the person.
Share manu ka say Michelle. Say Joy, so your father will fear. Na scare ni fear mpoa. No, mbanu mu comedy mo. There's a way you can lift up their hope. On catch him say, "Chale, mimba." Skinny wo. Eni eti say na ewu. O say. O go be wo say ewu. O say. Ba o catch him say, "Mamu worry. Mi ba se sia." You bet easy.
Also, I had
no craze one. So anybody who speaks the truth only Adam for.
Me person me kase me to akola oye boni sen. So one ma be being running on kanu kreda. Esesin oni munienti a o kase ayeden.
So muso you to adia. They are justified. Mean that even me am go to adia no. Me say nyam mami.
But only plans so be ko to bibi e bia mo ana bibi oyo.
This Christmas.
Me talk to say me talk we friend say kiti no. Wow, that mean you have me busua. Forget me ni mami ni papa. On bet ase.
Last year, me try to me to aponchi, aponchi ma me o fire 1.5. And they me flow ni no catch me 2.5.
Now we are see konenim.
Kosi living be say konenim. There be
plans so beto be on say we are sing there say me kan no aditin adisa ye do so okonu ni penyi wow and it say 5 years ago me did 2 cedi do expect me say by this time me do economy ni I very hard yes adosu and I say there foreigners do so okonu and ya kasa ye okonu mu no enso
what are you planning to buy?
Oh, myself, I have 2 goats already. Intimation, metal rice be.
Then you don't say.
Me na about 1.5. 150 Ghana cedis.
On the ton. Business man be not on.
When did you buy?
Oh, me turn say 3 weeks ni.
3 weeks ni.
Obe man dey answer. This was when.
Okoto yin.
I saw to sauce.
Say oh, one thing I could know. What fuka wa ha? Akọ istiriji. Wow. Ube maniska, definitely ube transportation. I thought guys the only suko to ma un.
Be next say the auto waka.
Very good.
Oh, do Africa.
Say everyone is on the transport can wa and do the auto waka.
Mo onye juma. Into the onu to auto mo onye juma. Obe dey didi.
But this has been a great discussion here, but what really accounts for the process of traders, and they are saying people are not buying their wares, and their wares are all in large quantities. Let's know what you think about this. Log on to our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's TV3 Ghana, and on Twitter, it's a new TV3. And Christmas, we're just a few days away, and then I want to wish you Merry Christmas in advance. Thanks for watching. Good morning. Thanks so much for staying there. Now the newspaper's ready, and the Independent says that Akufo-Addo government delivering fulfilling promises. The Vice President photograph here talking. The Times talks about the small-scale mining sector. A new policy on Friday. The Information Minister's photograph is there. The Heritage stays with the farmers. Food cheap, but high transport fares killing us. Traders are talking, and then government wraps farmers, fisherfolk, promises to pay fees of WASH to PhD level. Planting for food and jobs budget declined by 45.7% for 2019. That's in contrast to 100% increase in beneficiaries. The Gold Street Business has that story. The city is expected to remain calm or strong. Economic Times is reporting. And a big push for our farmers. We want to transform agriculture, says the president. And the BNFT talks about ASAP warning of creation of a slush fund. Those are some of the stories on the pages of the papers I have here this morning. My guest is a member of parliament for the Adaklu constituency, a member of the NDC, Honorable Kwame Abuja is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
I hope you're doing good.
By His grace.
How was your weekend?
Quite good. Spent much of it in the constituency.
Your constituency.
Attended the National Farmers Day, the district version, and showcased a lot of products from the community, which was very good. We awarded some farmers, and as you are aware, Adaklu's got a lot of land
for farming. I
guess, and we've been calling on people to come and partner us to do commercial farming to create jobs and food security for our people. So it was good.
How well is farming doing in Adaklu?
Well, at the moment, it's still people farming to survive. To survive. Though it's picking up. I know 2 people engaged in or starting something commercial, which is looking good so far. But we can accommodate a lot more than that. So it's picking up quite nicely.
All right, we'll start a conversation.
I want to take the opportunity to, share this pain I have. We lost Honorable Benjamin Dagadu very sadly, a stalwart of the NDC, very affable, very generous. In fact, today Volta Regional Party has got an office, a regional office, which is no longer being rented, and he played a significant role in the acquisition of that property. I want to take the opportunity to say my condolences to the family, the whole West constituency particularly, and then the region as a whole. We have lost a great stalwart and a committed party member. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Right, we commiserate with the family too. Now let's continue the conversation this morning with the farmers. Now, if you take a look at the statement this morning, a big push for farmers. We want to transform agriculture. That's the president talking there, addressing the Farmers' Day celebrations. Now, he gave his assurance that the agricultural sector is receiving unprecedented support and investment in an all-out attempt by his government to ensure that farming and fishing in Ghana are modernized. Now, the president says it is important to put on record that Ghana's agriculture was in a state of decline when he became president of the Republic prior to 2017. The president said the performance of the sector had been erratic, recording a growth of 0.8% in 2011, one of the lowest in modern times. He said and blamed it on the previous government. Now, the Heritage talks about the fact that
Traders at the Malamata market in Accra have corroborated the position of the Minister for Agriculture, suggesting to the effect that prices of food have become relatively cheaper in the country within the last 2 years. They have, however, said though food is cheap in rural areas, killer transport fares had affected the prices, particularly in the urban centers. The minister said the agricultural sector had been given a huge boost due to the implementation of the Planting for Food and Jobs program by the government. Dr. Koto said his team had been tracking the retail and wholesale prices of foodstuff in the various markets and have gathered that food prices had reached a high time low thanks to the implementation of the Planting for Food and Jobs policy. That's according to the Minister of Food and Agriculture. And we're also told on the same Farmers' Day celebration that government is promising, page 3, to pay the fees of farmers and fishermen. 24 scholarships are to be awarded to them. The scholarships are for the local tertiary programs ranging from the first degree to PhD in any agricultural course of their choice. The president made the promise while addressing the gathering at this year's annual Farmers' Day in the northern region. Before we touch on the, let me introduce my next guest, a member of the NPP's team, Nana Frederick Mufuriata is here. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hope you're doing great.
By God's grace.
Thanks for joining us this morning. But so let's continue. I'm sure you have been listening to our conversation while in here. The farmers last Friday received all the commendations, all the awards for feeding the people of Ghana and even exporting. The Heritage, the Statesman, and Ghanaian Times reporting of government intentions to keep agriculture in that direction, give it that push. How committed is government to making agriculture what we want it to be?
Thank you. If you don't mind, first of all, condolences to the Honorable and his party on losing their personality.
Right.
You know, regardless, we're human and we're Ghanaian, and it's important. Having said that, also, happy birthday to the Ochenyi. Today's his birthday.
Oh, right.
It was also the birthday of President Kufuor on Saturday. We wish him well. 80 is a big mark, and especially when he's made the kind of strides that he's made in Ghana. It's phenomenal. I believe even the report from the market, the direct report from the market, is evidence of the impact of what the government intends to do. And I use the word intends because it's a process. It's not one that should stop. And so as we go along, it's picking up. If you notice a couple of new approaches to the policy for boosting our agricultural sector were also formally announced. Export for...
Planting for export and
Planting
rural
for export,
development.
yes, for export and rural development, for example. All of those are supposed to help consolidate the objective of boosting agriculture as a major sector in our economy. There are statistics to prove the size of the sector in terms of people who are involved in it. I don't know those statistics offhand, but those statistics show us that a good chunk, and I know that for a fact that it's more than 50% of people are involved in working population are involved in agriculture. And so it means that if we give it the kind of energy that it requires, if you inject it with the kind of policies and directions that it requires, you're bound to get positive results. So for me, it's a major thing. How the government is going about it is, I find interesting. Initially, look, it's about telling people that we have capacity to do it and working at providing the inputs for it, doing the fertilizer thing, making sure that you're trying to get as many extension officers out there, giving farmers an appreciation of what has to be done. And when it all comes down to bear, I mean, now we're seeing the prices. I was in the Shanti region a few weeks ago. Plantain, the whole, I don't know the English.
Bunch.
The bunch, there you go. The bunch costs 5 cedis.
That's in the eastern region.
Ashanti region. Ashanti region. But by the time it makes it to Accra, you're talking 40 cedis and all that. So the argument that was raised about transportation sounds relatively right. Now, so we want to probe that and understand exactly the technicalities for that. Apart from fuel that's gone up, have other prices gone up so much so that this should happen? It should negatively affect this decline in food prices. Also, the other factors, what are profit-making incentives? I've been raising recently the question about how is it that we don't hear of sales. We don't hear business people drop prices in order to sell their products quickly so they can get into a new cycle of sales. How come when things appear to be stagnant, I'd think that you'd rather drop your price quickly, get rid of your goods so you can get a new cycle of products. That's what we've come to understand about the sales and marketing world. So how come in our case it is not the norm? Maybe we're building into that situation. But interestingly, you find that in the food sector, every other sector tends not to have that opportunity. So I don't know how that works out. But generally, when you look at the food sector, the agriculture sector, the policies that are coming and those that have already been implemented over the last 22 months or so, obviously have been phenomenal in affecting the positivity expected out of the policies. The last point I can make for now, it is also very interesting, the extra focus now on the fishing sector. It's important. Proteins are crucial. And considering what we're suffering with our water bodies and all that, clearly you're going to now be relying heavily on seafood, but there's freshwater food that we can rely on. And if the policies are now leaning towards aquaculture, it's going to open up that sector even more. And I think it's a very good approach to dealing with our agriculture situation. I'm impressed. Congratulations to the winners.
Yeah. Great. But are we getting food is cheaper in the hinterlands? If you move to urban centers, prices aren't the same. No. Government is putting up 1,000 metric ton warehouses across the country. That's what we're told, $260 million worth of implement. Now, when all these come together, now by the time we hit the lean season, if today the prices at urban centers are not good to talk about, then it suggests that if we're not careful, by the time we hit the lean season, we'll find the prices going up again. How do we deal with this problem of food cheap at the hinterlands, and yet when it gets to the urban centers, we're unable to get it at the prices that we can afford?
You know, that's the point earlier as well, and I agree. I won't stand here to claim expertise in understanding all the mechanics for this, but from a lay perspective, I think that if we're now putting in, because this phenomenon is not unusual.
Right.
We've experienced it ever since I was born. I mean, it's always been the case. We've always had lean seasons. How we've protected ourselves from the lean seasons has been up and down. For example, Dr. Nkrumah puts up all these silos. What happens? I believe it's General Achampong who got heavily involved in setting up food distribution and all that for and it goes. So we've had different cycles of how to do that. I think we've come to yet another solution that is being offered by the government. This matter of warehousing is crucial. The matter of processing is crucial. It's a process. The gestation period hasn't been discussed, but I don't think that it should take us over the next 2 years or so to begin to see, for example, the warehouses which should be complete over the next few months. Quite a few of them should be complete, if not all of them. So it means that it should now take care of the foods that can be stored. There's the buffer stock policy. nothing has really changed there in terms of being prepared to take in products so that we're ready for the lean seasons. And then there's a private sector opportunity. The environment has been made so friendly over the last few months that private sector should be interested in getting involved. When you see the opportunity to stock and market food and processed food and all that, the opportunities have been created, the environment has been set. So I think really we have enough history to show us that it's been a rough ride. We also have recent evidence to show that there's a new solution and that we should take up the opportunity so that it can work out.
I'm grateful. Kwame, how well do you see government commitment to pushing agriculture to take us to where we want to go?
Well, let's look at it this way. In the 2019 budget, the finance minister says we will get about $1 billion from our oil revenues. I am sure by the time we go to the 2019 crop year, Cocoa Board alone can raise maybe $1.2, $1.3, $1.4 billion. What it tells me is that agriculture still gives us better value than the oil we have. If we put in the kind of investment and attention we put in to the oil extraction and other things, we may get more money. If cocoa alone gives us 1.3 billion, forget about coffee, forget about yam, rice, and other things. It is quite obvious that the way to go is to put the investment in agriculture. I think these stories came on the back of the 34th Farmers' Day, and I think Ghanaians must cast their minds back. And I want to take the opportunity to thank President Rawlings and those days, people, how the country was. The crops failed because the weather was very bad. Not too long around that, our counterpart in Nigeria drove us out because they were retaliating to, allegedly retaliating to what President Buzia did to them. So Shehu Shagari retaliated by Ghana Must Go, sending our people back in a year that the crops have failed. We living in the country were hungry already. Fortunately, the rains returned properly in 1994. 84, sorry. And our farmers took up the challenge to put their strength to the ground and farmed to the extent that food became very much available again. And on the back of that, President Rawlings instituted the National Farmers' Day to recognize these farmers and to focus on their needs so that we never return to the days of hunger again. And since then, I think a lot of interventions have been put in by successive government. If you notice, focus on fisher folk, where outboard motors were distributed. Even the issue of a premix came up about regarding that, so that they can have fuel for their boats. Fish processing factories, some of them were built. Agric mechanization centers were built at some locations. Tractors were bought and distributed to farmers at subsidized rate. Extension officers were trained. It goes on and on. Even buffer stock that my brother talked about, company was established to address a simple issue in the agriculture value chain. That is, how do we store food, like you rightly said. When we talk about building warehouse, sometimes we just probably need to be careful. How is that warehouse going to address the issue of storage of plantain? How is it going to store yam? How is it going to store tomatoes? How is it going to store cocoyam and all those things? So they can at most store grains for a significant period of time, because when you go into a certain sector, you probably need to start talking about refrigeration and other things that makes it expensive. President Kufuor, even before then, the NDC introduced free fertilizers for cocoa farmers and other things. President Kufuor came and introduced mass cocoa spraying, and now the new government has started something called Planting for Food, of which farmers can put down some amount of money and take some seeds and fertilizer. There are issues about how it is being done, which we can improve on to make it much more relevant to farmers, because if a farmer can't get 50% of the cost, then it means you can't have access. But at the end of the day, let's also understand that this is the season. This is the bumper season. You understand? So let's not overhype this thing. We don't get hunger or prices don't go up around this time. It is true that the prices have gone down slightly less than what it was last year, which is a good thing. But the bottom line, and I think government should focus on this, how do we create a system where the value chain is not broken at a point where, like my brother is saying, you go to somewhere in Ashanti region, a farmer puts all the effort and goes to the farm to harvest a bunch of plantain for 5 cedis. I mean, how can you make that person come out of poverty if he sells a bunch for 5 cedis? Do you know how many months it takes for him to be on that farm to get that done? So I think we should be able to find a way of addressing this. And one major issue is the road network. The road network to the farming areas is just too bad. That is why I feel that, you see, unfortunately or coincidentally, the areas that the cocoa roads go to are the same places that you get some of these crops, the plantain and other things. They grow them, they cultivate them together. In fact, we encourage them when you plant cocoa initially, so that you don't go hungry for 3 years. You interplant, you plant your cocoa yam, the plantain and other things. But the roads to these areas are in a very deplorable state. That is why I feel that whatever the suspicion was about cocoa roads that made the government stop them, we have come to a full circle right now. We are aware there's no evidence of more practices or wrongdoing in the world of cocoa road project. Let's find a way, if it's about the money, let's find a way of making the funding available so that we can go and complete those roads, so that we are not only addressing the issue about cocoa production. Once you address that, you are addressing other issues about agriculture. And I believe the more we can put into agriculture, the better for us. But you see, it becomes an issue when, look, the way my brother spoke, I don't see anything wrong with it. But just suppose that with the way the president spoke. Were we in hunger? Was this country under any hunger before he became president? It's as if everything that was done, and we are noticing something. The president cannot say anything about himself without first condemning other people. Meanwhile, today, the president will not tell you that because of the investments made by John Mahama, Dumso, if he comes, it is because of his own lack of management. Because read what the energy minister said the last time. We were able to pay $150 million to West African gas pipeline. From where? From ESLA, energy sector levies. The president wouldn't talk about the fact that when his finance minister says he's getting $1 billion from oil revenue, it was because of the investment done by John Mahama and others before him. Maybe if you can go all the way from President Rawlings. So he takes the good ones and keep quiet over it and complain about the ones that he ought to have been dealing with. And I don't think we can develop this country that way. Agriculture, I repeat, we focus on agriculture, we can address many things. But the only thing also this year's Farmers' Day, you notice, majority of the district never honored any farmer. They never organized anything, simply because they claimed they didn't have the money. So the question is, how do you motivate, farmers in that district? Are you saying that they are not they are not important? I think government must find the resources to address these things. As a small token, I paid 10,000 Ghana cedi out of my MP Common Fund towards the program in Adaklu. So when I saw tokens of gifts and honor being given to some farmers, I know we could do better, we could do more. But I'm sure if government puts in a lot more, we'll be able to get to where we want to be.
Just a quick comment. Yes, just a reaction coming there, we can move on.
This matter of the districts, I'd like us to verify it, because I didn't hear that.
That some districts did not honor farmers?
Well, from his comment, he said most. Yes. And it'll be interesting to find out, and to find out why, because he's assigned his own reasons to it. So it's important for us to get clarity on that.
The minister told us earlier on that there was no money to celebrate some of the farmers.
The minister said that?
Yes, the Minister for Food and Agriculture.
Very well. Okay. So then that's clear. Then the other point was, he makes some very interesting points, and then he overshadows it with some extreme negatives. That I'll leave him to. But it's very interesting that the relevance of what he tried to portray was strengthened in the number of slips he made in his narrative. I mean, where's that taking us? Today, on the ground today, what is happening? What is really happening on the ground today? Is it not true that the statisticians had results that showed that our agriculture was not growing the way it was supposed to? A few years ago, as in 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Is it not a matter of fact? If we allow ourselves, you see, you don't try and destroy your in-laws simply because you can't understand what's going on in your family. What's happening on the ground is because it wasn't happening before. Fact. It's not something we can take. What is happening now was not happening before. The approach was not the same. The attention was not the same. The effort was not the same. And so it's bringing you results that you haven't seen before. If it was the same, would you have to go to 1970 something and then give us a statement that was partly false? In today's age, you want to go and refer to Aliens Compliance Order today. You want to refer to Aliens Compliance Order today as a relevant point to make on matters of agriculture.
In reference to why Shehu Shagari
totally irrelevant, and it's not true. You know, Shehu Shagari did not throw Ghanaians out because purportedly Ghanaians were thrown out. It is not true, my brother. Go and look at the history. Please, don't sit here and do that to yourself. You're too young for that. Don't do that to yourself. Stop. Point. So that is the point. The point is that let us stick to the relevances.
Why were they
Is it relevant today in the first place? What is the relevance? Because it is not true.
Because there was famine in Ghana already.
The famine in Ghana was not caused by people coming. Those people are Ghanaians in the first place. The Ghanaians are Ghanaians in the first place. Unfortunately, that happened. But has that got to do with agriculture today? The credit that goes to President Rawlings, the credit that goes to President Rawlings, should not be related to a policy that didn't hold the way it was supposed to. The credit, when you do that, you actually take away from him.
Is it not the fact
because
that
it's
the
not
1 million
Ghanaians
who were deported also had an impact on our food production?
So if you want to discuss that, do so. And that one, there's no doubt about it. But where is the relevance of Elia? You don't know that truth, that matter to be true.
What do you mean by you don't know that truth?
You do not know. I'm telling you that you do not know the realities of that. And apart from that,
what was the reason Shehu Shagari
almost 50 years later, we cannot have a young parliamentarian discussing that policy as if he doesn't understand what it was about.
I don't understand.
So I don't see how you can now bring this here and then try to relate to realities of our agriculture today, today's agriculture progress. And the fact that the president raises, you see, you forget that you uttered certain words in your time in office. You told Ghanaians that they have short memories. You told Ghanaians that they have short memories. We don't want Ghanaians to think they have short memories.
Link that to
and the important, yes, you are trying to tell us that every time the president speaks, you didn't tell him to stay.
No,
right, you did not. I'm dealing with the issues that he raised. He raised the matter of the president referring to
let's focus on
I am doing exactly that.
Okay, all right, so go on.
When I spoke,
but you are not going to tell me what to do.
Neither are you going to stop me from saying what I'm saying. I'm saying that when he spoke about the president's speech, he referred to the fact that the president is caught up in blaming the NDC. And I'm telling him that, and I'm telling you, and everybody humbly, that the reality is that it is the same NDC government, but led by Mr. Mahama, who were telling Ghanaians that we tend to forget things. President Akufo-Addo does not think so. Neither does the rest of us. And so when we are reminded of where we've come from, especially within a political era, and we are in a political era constantly, there's nothing wrong with what he said. In fact, it is important that we recognize that there's a matter of growth.
Okay.
And the way you are able to determine growth is to make comparisons.
For you, the point is that there is nothing wrong with the president blaming the previous government for these things. That's what the point. Great.
The fact that I didn't do it doesn't mean I don't think it.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Kwame, except you want to react, but if not, we can move on.
Well, I did suggest that there's evidence of improvement in price of food in my preamble, and I only caution that we are in the bumper season, so nobody should overemphasize this, because come February, you can see prices going up. You can see a ball of tomatoes increasing. So whatever we should do to make that value chain a bit reasonable at all stages is all we are calling for. I'm not saying that the NPP, I did suggest here that the planting for food what has been brought in, and then farmers were able to get, if you pay 50%, you will be able to access some seeds and fertilizer and others. But the litany of interventions are listed from President Rawlings to our time is far more than this. And I'm saying that if you want to talk about, in fact, sometimes, and you see, they don't want us to do politics. Half of the money they are using for planting for food was wasted. But we are not going to talk about that today. Today, even the vehicles they share, planting for food vehicles, you see they write planting for food on the back of that bucket. Because President Mahama has already secured $125 million Canadian dollar down for them. So exactly what are they doing? If a day will come, we'll go into how much we are believing that the amount of money taken by the government and put into agriculture. If we were to measure the output, we would have said that we've been shortchanged. But that is not the day. That is not for today.
It is more relevant than your alien compliance reference.
Our farmers that today, when I eat, when I buy food cheaper today, it is partly because of their effort, because they have to find a 50% and cash and put it down first anyway. But I wouldn't blame government for. I mean, no government have got limitless resources. It is the time for an NPP to put in whatever intervention they want to put in. As far as they are concerned, planting for food is the answer. But planting for food and the building of the warehouse wouldn't address the storage of plantain, wouldn't address the storage of cocoyam and other things.
That's why you're putting factories in every district. Processing will. You know that. You see, Ghanaians are better judges over these things. There's no need for us to belabor the point.
I'm grateful. Now, let's take a look at the Independent this morning. Akufo-Addo government delivering for failing promises. The NPP government is on course to deliver on the promises made in the build-up to the 2016 elections to fundamentally reform Ghana and improve the lives of citizens. The Vice President is talking there. He was speaking at the 10th anniversary to commemorate the enskinment of Buperu Ajinapor II at Bupe. That was on Saturday. He said the government pledged to build a society anchored on fairness, decency, and integrity. We committed ourselves to serving our countrymen and women with dedication and honesty. So, as a tall list, we promised to restore economic growth. We promised to reduce inflation. We promised to reduce interest rates. We have done just that. We promised to reduce the debt burden. We have reduced the debt burden. We promised to increase agricultural production. We have delivered that. One district, one factory, one village, one dam, free senior high school, reducing electricity prices, restoring nursing training allowances, teacher training allowances, delivering and also establishing the Nation Builders Corps. We have delivered. The Vice President talking there, the national ID, the digital address, the paperless ports, mobile payment, interoperability, on and on and on. That's the Vice President talking there. Now again, let me start a conversation with you. The government reminding of fulfilling its promises. Has government been able to do exactly just that?
Fulfilling its promise.
Exactly.
I don't think that we can fault it so far on the scale of things. It's interesting that this has come up. On my way here, I was actually mulling over the fact that it's important that we actually do a proper analysis of all of this. Right, you know, you and I go a long way. We didn't start this business today. You on that side and me here. All these decades, we do the same thing in analysis. We should try and do something different. And I think that if we want to put this government on the spot, let's lay out the realities. This policy was proposed. Has it been put out? What was its intention? Is it being met? We should do that proper analysis. And we'll recognize that if you look at the approach that it is taking, it put out a certain vision. Nana Akufo-Addo, the president, started out targeting the youth, targeting our capacity, therefore agriculture, and then looking at how we can stabilize whatever was going wrong. And for me, my understanding so far is our finances and therefore the economy in general. If you go into those three sectors, we're going to find that we're doing very well there. The financial sector, in all the chaos, there's been a certain stability that's allowed people to know what's going on and to manage themselves. They're able to determine basically how things should proceed. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but this is the direction. There's success there. If you go by a certain appreciation of it is inches that make a yard, we're inching up to those yards. We're not stalling. If you take the agriculture sector, we just discussed it. It has become extra attractive now. Fact. Fact. You can call all the whatevers you like. The fact is that the agriculture sector has become very attractive because of the evidence on the ground about policy. And it is policy from this government. And then if you go into even the social services structure, the things, or the social interventions, if you like, structures, the things that are happening there. Of course, our flagship policy, Free SHS, and its ripple effects on all of us. People, we haven't even sat to properly analyze the ripple effects of the policy. We've been caught up in the technical details, and that's fine. I'm not saying no. I'm saying that in our analysis, you and I have been doing this for years, we tend not to go into the ripple effect of a policy, if it's to succeed or if it didn't succeed. And in this case, we have enough policies. If we take our time to highlight all the details of what the government has been able to achieve, paperless sport, all those things, nuisance taxes reductions, all of those, you're bound, I mean, naysayers are bound to find problems with something because they either didn't do it, they're grabbing for straw, or they don't understand what's going on. That's naysayers. And then there are those who objectively are able to tell you that, okay, you're in the right direction, straighten out these parts, you know, do this a little differently. You can tell those people from naysayers. And then there are those who generally, in the very general perspective, are able to put things in perspective, consider all the history, and see that we are truly making certain strides. And so, yes, is it true that the government is doing quite phenomenally? What's the words that the Vice President uses? That's what's happening. It's a matter of fact. Our politics pushes us to have to, so to speak, constantly remind people of where we're going and how we're going about it. In the communication world, it's important because you need to help guide people to understand and appreciate the policies that you are putting out. So it's important that you do that. But there's also the political fact that political marketing requires you to constantly remind people of what you are able to achieve. You're not going to talk about whether you're a dead goat or not. You're going to talk about whether you're an active bull on the ground working. It's important. And so, yes, humbly, we must admit that we're not doing too badly. We also admit that, well, there'll be one or two things here and there, but we have the benefit of hindsight.
Okay, give me a few minutes. Let me take some comments and I'll come back to you. Fallon, welcome once again.
Thank you, Bright. As always, viewers have their say on the issues that are being discussed and coming in. The NPP should still continue parroting propaganda concerning food items when the size of Banku and Kenke continue to shrink faster than before. I guess the minister doesn't buy food from vendors. That's Shaggy from Nima and Sofo Iyamusa in Kumbungu. Indeed, His Excellency Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is one of the most finest and hardworking vice presidents Ghana has ever had. His lead in digitizing the economy is unprecedented. Ghanaians should therefore support him in his quest to stabilize the economy. Good morning. I'm enjoying your discussion. Can you also let us know the job advertised in the newspapers, please? Well, that's a request coming there to you, Bright. Apart from the discussions, they want to know what jobs are in the newspapers. Good morning to you, Bright, and your panelists. I struggle to identify with the Vice President the promise he is talking about. He's talking too much. Beg him for us to concentrate on building our dear country. The talking is becoming too much. That's Aram from Adenta News site. Also, Al-Hassan Wonwana in Wa, that's Ghanaians have to appreciate and acknowledge President Akufo-Addo's government for initiating planting for food and jobs and to boost food and agric products in the country. Earth tremor causes panic in Accra, but I heard Wejagbawe environs are earthquake-prone areas, and people are warned to keep away from putting up buildings in the area years ago, and no one took the responsibility to check the ban. One day, all the houses in the area will be swallowed under the earth. Then we will see their stubbornness. That's from Ablade Efia Kumazongo Takrade. Good morning, TV3. First of all, congratulations to my crush Abina for winning this year's GMB contest. She deserved it. I want to know how far with the maritime boss issue. Is he still at post? I am a citizen, not a spectator. That's Ativo David. Good morning. Also, want to me to challenge JDM's second coming in Supreme Court will even soften the chances of NDC in the next election. I wish this could be a reality so that Ghanaians will make their own judgment, because I wonder how SC can prevent JM from participating unless the constitution is from a different planet. I don't know the reason why Ghanaian media is giving attention to this useless political gimmick. That's from Alaji Willie G in Efia Kuma. That's all we have from our viewers here.
Right. Just keep them coming. We'll read them, the remaining in the course of the show. But let me quickly come back to you, Kwame. Falang, thanks so much for joining us. And so this is it. He's suggesting that at least reminding Ghanaians of the government having fulfilled its promises is one way of letting people know what government is doing.
Well, how could you fault a government from telling you what they think they've been doing, irrespective of whether what they tell you is what you feel? And indeed, I have been on record to have said that the vice president thinks he's still in a campaign mood. But let's look at it this way. Look, 2015, 2016, the World Bank, IMF predicted that based on the investment we made in other things, including being able to stop Doomsaw, being able to invest in 10 fields and other things, on the back of those two things alone, 2017, 2018, 2019, growth was going to be better. So even if you put the country on autopilot in 2017, 2018, 2019, it will be difficult for you to see a slump in our growth. So sometimes when NPP talks about this, I don't know exactly what they mean by this. When you are a government that actually inherited these things, and inherited, for instance, ESLA giving you 3.5 billion for you to fix the problems in the energy sector, and then you wait until West African Gas Pipeline shut down on you, Doomsaw to start, before you use the money you collected on our behalf to pay $150 million out of it. And then you want us to thank you for that. The person who actually did that, you bastardized the person. So when you inherit a stable power generation capacity, a gas processing plant to provide the fuel, 3 oil wells churning out almost 200 barrels a day, a better oil price on the world market. Don't forget 2016 thereabout, we couldn't even export much because FPSO Kwame Nkrumah was damaged. The crude was about $40. Today, all those things are coming up. No wonder the finance minister can predict that they are going to get $1 billion this year alone. Money almost equivalent to what we got in 2 years and other things. And you upon that, you borrowed almost half of Ghana's debt since independence. Almost on daily. In fact, last week alone, we borrowed. The Parliament have approved loans almost $400 million. By the time we end the year, it will be more than $70 million. Billion Ghana cedi borrowed by this government. And you borrow half of Ghana's debt, and you are telling us that because of that, you have done something so important. When you look back, a government that was even in crisis, that left a growth that you said was not enough, left you better infrastructure, which you can't even maintain till today. The president can find time, go around commissioning KVIPs, but can't take 2 minutes to go and commission Terminal 3 simply because he's ashamed of what he said and what he can see. When he cannot find time to go and commission Ho Airport so that people can get job there, he cannot get time to go and commission Wa Airport and things like this. And you haven't done nothing. You have just started few things now which cannot be seen apart from maybe completed, a tunnel between Flowerport and East Legon. For what? $5 million. Those are the things you want to be happy about and be telling people. When today you have inherited a country with better healthcare infrastructure. You have inherited a country with more school buildings,
which you needed to build more, but when we give money to, get fund, you divert the money and pay the teacher training allowance, which is even in arrears. That is why the teacher trainees only went back to school yesterday. They've been at home. When instead of paying doctors, so that Adaklu district can get a doctor, you decide to pay nursery training allowance, and you think that when you say to people that you are paying nursery training allowance, somebody should be happy. No, I'm saying that I would rather pay that doctor to go and sit in a consulting room and treat my people, and then the nurse takes student loan, but that is their choice. And when you inherited a country where many investments, today we are, in fact, we have got more gas than we needed for our plant. But this government have truncated the process of connecting the gas from the ground to the processing plant, and rather gone to sign a new agreement with Gazprom and others to import more gas because somebody wants Chobo. And then today you tell me that that's an allegation. Well, so I'm learning from them. They sit here every day and say that whenever it's like that, maybe I'm learning from them. And then you tell me that upon all these things for which you haven't put in any investment, rather you have borrowed so much. You can't tell us what to use the money for. Okay. You want to tell me that the economy is booming? That is why today, when you have a tipper truck or you have a pickup on a construction site, it is called a luxury car. Meanwhile, somebody who imports a luxury Mercedes-Benz car, 2018, which is just 2.0 liters, which is $100,000. Your rickety, pickup, which is probably just 50,000 Ghana cedi, is a luxury car. So we need to take 2,000 cedis from you, my brother. I'm sorry. This country could do better under any government. If this country was even under autopilot, it could have done better than what it's doing under Dr. Bawumia.
I'm grateful. We'll have to wrap up the conversation. We're almost hitting the top of the hour, 8 o'clock.
Did you recognize that I referred to naysayers?
Well,
you just got a rendition of a
naysayer. Let's wrap up the conversation. I'm so grateful for your time this morning. Those of you who sent in your comments, said we'll read the ones that we couldn't read. And if you do Ajimo as a member of the NPP's team, Honorable Kwame Agboja.
Don't just reduce the man's it's a powerful man in
Honorable Kwame Agboja is a member of Parliament for the Adaklu constituency. Stay with us.
Another member.
I will tell you what happened to Dogbe.
Hello, good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Noonday. Now, yesterday, some parts of Accra experienced what they call an earth tremor. Exactly how far was the impact and what does it mean? Does it mean we're going to have an earthquake? Some people have been wondering. I have with me here someone from the Geological Survey Department, and he's going to be throwing more light on all of that. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, yesterday, the footprint exactly of the earth tremor, as far north as the Dodowa Road, there was also as far east as Sakumono, and as far west as Kaswa. There were also some reports coming in from Suhum.
Oh, wow.
According to your assessment, which areas exactly experienced this tremor?
We also heard, because we've also heard that people even felt it in all these areas that you are mentioning. Even today, I even learned that even at Budumburam, people felt it. You see, the epicenter of this earthquake was around, Weja and Bawe enclave. And you know, when any part of the earth breaks, it generates waves, and the waves moves outward. So as the waves are moving, then they are shaking the ground. So, and the energy decays as they move outward. Right. So depending on the magnitude or the amount of energy that was released at the source, that will depend how far it will be felt. Yeah.
But you know, earthquakes, usually you're able to measure the magnitude.
Yes.
Are you able to measure the magnitude of these tremors? And what was this one's magnitude?
Yeah, this one, the magnitude was around 4. We are still collecting more data to analyze so that we can come out with the exact magnitude.
Were you aware that something like this was going to happen? Are you able to predict?
No, we don't predict an earthquake. We can't predict an earthquake, even the world over, even in the most developed countries. It has been a problem that seismologists have, all over the years, over 100 years, have been researching and researching to be able to predict earthquake. Because when we talk about prediction, we are looking at the exact location where the earthquake is going to occur, the exact time, and the exact magnitude that will occur. And the dynamics of the earth is very complex, and we've not been able to achieve that. But then we can forecast.
There are no indications?
We can forecast. Forecast here means that there can give probabilities that an earthquake can occur in a particular area. That we are able to do. And since we've been experiencing these earthquakes in Accra, and earthquakes have a return period, that is what tells us that a major earthquake can occur.
Yesterday, one of my friends mentioned that she was experiencing an earthquake, and I said, no, well, if you were experiencing an earthquake, you wouldn't be able to even text me about it. What's the difference? The tremor and the earthquake. What differentiates?
It depends. In the general public, or in most of the media, they normally use earth tremor to mean smaller earthquakes, maybe from magnitude which is around 4 and below.
That's a tremor.
Yes, that is the tremor, yes. And then the earthquake to mean anything beyond 5, which have the potential to cause damage, while the tremors normally do not have the potential to. But in the seismological world, we
so
don't
these tremors
normally
don't have any serious impact?
Normally differentiate between the two. We only use either a micro tremor or a big tremor or what have you, or a small earthquake or a big earthquake, or yes. And the tremors, as we understand it in the media sense, is a small earthquake. And because they are small earthquakes, they don't carry much energy that can damage buildings or collapse buildings. It's only when buildings collapses on people that we fear earthquake. But then if it doesn't cause damage to buildings and it doesn't collapse, then we will not have any cause to fear it. Yeah.
Do you have the technology required to be able to measure these earth tremors and earthquakes? And when you say 4, which scale was this on?
Yes. We have the technology to do it. You know, Ghana, since the colonial days in 1914, the colonial masters or the colonial government had a seismograph.
Is that the machines we are still using?
No, that's not what we're using. That was colonial days. And then in the 80s, the government of Ghana installed an analog seismic network. And even in 2012, we installed a current broadband system, which is one of the best, I must say, in Africa. You see. So we have the equipment there. But it's just that we sometimes have challenges because in Ghana, in general, when it comes to installing or building or installing, we're able to do it. But committing funds to maintaining these structures, and these are electronic gadgets, these are not gadgets you can easily get in the market. Right. You see, to even get them, you need to go to the providers in Europe or America or Canada to get a part. So sometimes when something breaks down, to get a part to replace it takes because you cannot easily go to the market and buy it and replace it. But then we have the system there, which is we are using for monitoring of.
So when a tremor is experienced, should I be expecting an earthquake, coming right after? What does it mean?
Yes, from research, we know that earthquakes are caused by movement along fault, and it is stresses which is building on our earth because forces are acting on the earth. We normally hear that the earth is moving, it's not a static something. So as the earth is moving, we know that forces are acting on it. And from basic definition, we know that forces is either a push or a pull of an object. So there's kind of forces which is pushing or pulling our earth. Some places the earth is being torn apart. Some places there's compression. So that is, yes, what is. So when these forces act on this earth, a time reaches that it cannot continue to bear this. and then it breaks and leave out all the energy in it, and it causes earthquake. So the point is that as these stresses building up, it gives smaller events, often the tremors, often. Okay. So, and the stress will keep building up, and these smaller ones will be coming very frequent. So those smaller ones which are coming very frequent is giving indication that they may be a bigger one coming up.
Which
in the
areas
future.
are prone?
But then the bigger ones, they don't return very often. Some places, even in Haiti, for instance, I learned it took them about 80 years for them to experience the major big one. Yeah. And in Ghana, we had one in 1862. In Accra, we have another one in 1939 in Accra. So we are looking about a return period of about 77 years before a bigger one. So because it takes such a long time, people sometimes forget and relax.
The next month or
the next month, so
take a while.
Yes, so when you are even advising people, they
but
are
you
very
can't
skeptical
predict
about
when.
it. But we can predict when.
But are there specific areas in Accra that are more earthquake prone?
Yes. The Akwapim mountain range, which we've seen from Aburi all the way to Weja and even enters the sea towards Gomwa Fete. You see, this mountain range has been formed as a result of compression. So as you are compressing, they are of the same density, so they rise up to form this folded mountain. You see, yeah. So because of these compressions, a lot of earthquakes occur along these areas.
That's a hot zone.
But then we have another fault line in the sea. We call it the Romanche fracture zone. That is also
along the coast.
Along the coast, yes.
So the mountains the mountains, also along the coast.
Along the coast. So this so the contact where these faults meet, that is around Nyanyano, Weja area. That's why that place is much more dangerous. Or it experiences much more activities than the other part of the mountains from Aburi onwards.
Before we wrap up, if there's an earthquake in my neighborhood today, what do I do? What's the first thing to do to protect myself?
Well, the precautions is about before an earthquake, what you do, during an earthquake, what you do.
Let's say
after,
during the earthquake, it hits me all of a sudden. What do I do?
What it hits you? You see, if the earthquake, the source of the earthquake, is far from where you live, you see, normally we have different waves of the different components of the waves arriving. First, we have this P wave, which it pushes objects up and down. But because it pushes objects up and down, and most of our structures are vertically and well reinforced vertically, it's not able to pick it. So if you're able to experience this one first, you can probably hide under a table. Okay. Then, in a matter of seconds, the secondary wave will come. It's the secondary wave which shakes building sideways. And that one carries much more energy as well too. So that one is able to collapse the building. So as soon as you experience the first P wave, you sometimes feel that it is sort of pushing you up and down, you quickly
immediately go under a table.
Go under a table or under a bed.
If there's no table where I am.
That is why we advise that when you build, you should have some places which will serve as a safe havens for you. Yeah, whether it's under your bed, whether you have some table there, so that as soon as, or somewhere in your compound or in your building. Because if you're able to hide under it and an object falls, it will serve as a shock absorber. It will reduce the impact that you would have felt if that object were to hit you directly. So
something that can cover you.
Cover you, so that even if it hits it, it reduces the intensity that you feel if that object.
Fantastic, and well, you heard it right here. When there is an earthquake, you should be looking to hide under something that can cover you in case there's anything falling. Also, the most prone areas are the areas along the mountain range and then the areas along the coast. You're still watching Noonday.
All right, welcome back to the show. Time to talk about Mission. Don't forget that Mission is brought to you by the European Union, Danida, and the UK Aid, being powered by Star Ghana. Now, we've been recording some great results in the Upper West region. Two of the districts that we've been visiting, the Wa East and the Dafiama Busie Isa district. This morning, we're focusing our attention in Wa East, where a school at Yaru is receiving great support. That school, that community now has a new school building. The kids are happy. The teachers are excited that at least education has seen some improvement. Watch this.
Sometimes you read, but the snake can come with you. The teachers can run out about the snake. The teachers fear the snake before the last 2 weeks. We killed another snake with this in this class. You will be afraid. You can't let. Anytime you see like this and like this, sometimes you are afraid.
This is Osman Nasif, a final year pupil. That was a story a year ago when we met him at the Yaru Junior High School in Wa East. Studying was a challenge. The school building posed danger to pupils. Poor performance at the BEC was the evidence. Pupils scored very poor grades.
During the rainy season, we find it difficult to teach because looking at the structure, if it is just the sign of raining, we have to just let them close, whether it's time for closure or not, because you see the structure of this building, it can fall down at any time.
Several of them could not continue after junior high school. The community was disturbed. Mission's constant interaction with authorities of Wa East started yielding results.
When I entered the classroom, I realized that any time you happen to have a sign of rain, then it means that the students will have to go home and the teachers too have to vacate the place and leave because it's actually threatening. If we are there and it is raining, I think you see the kind of dangers that you will be exposed to. I think that one has necessitated this kind of project that we are coming to give to you so that the students, when they come, they will sit comfortably without any panic of any turn.
That was the beginning of a journey of hope. Construction started, and in 4 months, the structure was ready. Pupils of Yaru Junior High School now have a conducive environment to study.
Definition of a speech. The Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English defines a speech as an act of speaking formally to a group of people.
The community has for years been neglected. The education of their children was in jeopardy. All this has changed. Yaru now boasts of a beautiful school structure for its junior high school.
It has impacted us greatly because as compared to this one, when you are here, you are comfort, you are safe, and then you always concentrate on the students, and then they also put focus on you.
Osman Nasif is now a happy pupil. He promised me excellent grades at the BEC.
The learning is going very good, and the teachers are teaching you no fear in your heart. If at that time you are teaching, but the snakes has disturbing you because of that, the learning is not being in your mind.
Like his other schoolmates, they are no longer shy coming to school due to the poor building.
I feel happy because the school is building so much. I'm learn hard and others learn hard because she feel happy to have a new building.
The assembly says it is committed to improving education in the district. Yaru Junior High School, however, needs more help. The new facility has a library, but it is empty as of now.
I must be frank that the Assembly has not taken any steps to provide books for them. But when I went around most of the GHS in the district, I realized that none of them is having any good library. So because of that, we have included provision of library books, reading books and all those things in our 2019 budget.
What is left is for this library to be finished. A beautiful edifice, but without books and furniture. The assembly will take time to finish the library. School authorities and people are asking or appealing to benevolent organizations and the district assembly to come in and finish the library and help them to learn to read and write. Bright Nananfo, TV3, Yaru. All right, so we'll continue our conversation on Wa East and education in general. My guests, I told you earlier, MP for Wa East, Honorable Godfrey Bayon, and MP for German North Constituency, Honorable Sheka Stevens, also the chair of Parliament Select Committee on Education. Welcome to my studios.
Thank you.
Let's start with the Honorable Member of Parliament for Wa East. So, education getting a lot of support in your constituency. What is the commitment to ensure that what is left is completed?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bright. And thank you, Ms. Ghana, for all the wonderful work that you've been doing over the last 2 years or so. Indeed, we all know that infrastructure, especially school infrastructure in the form of classrooms, in the form of libraries, in the form of laboratories and whatever, are the things that enhances teaching and learning in any school. So for the past years, or for a long time in Wa East, most of these things were lacking. As you showed the earlier pictures of the dilapidated classrooms that were shown, how could any child learn effectively in under such circumstances or environment? But thank God, my party and my government, since any time we come into government, we have tried to do a lot to improve this infrastructure. In fact, we have done a lot of school blocks in the district. The people of Wa East know that anytime MPP comes to power, they know we are targeting these things, and then we improve a lot of their conditions. So we are very grateful for you prompting and showing it to the world that something is happening, because people are always in the air, branding a lot of lies. People go to the extent of saying that since MPP came to power, we haven't even built one school, put up one school block, which is not true. There are many of these. There are quite a number of these blocks that you have shown in the Wa East that have been put over the last 2 years or so. So we are very grateful to you for doing that. And I, as the MP, want to ensure that, as far as I personally don't have the money to do these classrooms, but the little monies that I get, I also try to put in equipments or things that children would need, like textbooks, like SI books, like mathematical sets and all those little things, but that enhances the child's effectiveness in learning. I try to do those things. And so for me, I'm always collaborating with the DCE, I'm collaborating with even the Ministry of Education in Accra here. From time to time, I visit them and I try to put my problems across to them, and they try to help. So as an MP, I get committed to it that we will continue to put up infrastructure in all the schools or any of the schools that do not have these classrooms. I know with classrooms, learning is enhanced because the teachers feel comfortable, the children feel comfortable, and then they have a very serene mind to tackle their classroom.
We'll come to talk about our other committees in the constituency, but let me go to the chair of Parliament's Select Committee on Education. In terms of education and providing for basic schools, what is the direction?
Well, thank you, Mr. Bright. My regards to cheerers, viewers, and Ghanaians. But we have to say, commend you for this exercise that you are doing. It tells you that infrastructural deficit in the country, so far as education is concerned, cannot be handled by one person alone. It takes different forms, angles here and there. And exactly what you are doing is to project and tell Ghanaians and the whole world where we are now. And looking at the picture so far, it tells us that we don't have priority right. Our priority settings are not right in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of everything. And all this is because of who should take credit politically. This, that. And when we can, we do it in a rush. And therefore, bit by bit, we tackle down and we don't complete. So when it happens like that, these are the challenges that we face. And thank God you are in, as TV3 is in, to project all these things. In fact, that is why this regime, the Parliamentary Select Committee, has used, the Get Fund is using 40% of it to secure a loan, about 7.2 billion Ghana cedis. That's 1.5 billion US dollars to take care of all infrastructure deficits in the country, started by Atamelos, your mama, the present regime, so that all, by 4 years' time, we should be able to eliminate all infrastructure deficits in the country. A regime will come and leave the scene. Another regime will come. For 10 or 20 years, nobody will talk about infrastructure deficit again. And that will mean that we'll be setting the priorities right when it comes to education. So the other 60% will also be used side by side with this thing. And this money is, the first tranche is coming, right, which is about 2.3 billion. And it's equivalent to, what do you call it, 5 million US dollars, billion dollars. So this
That's
amount,
the first tranche.
the first tranche, and it is categorized into critical SHS projects, critical infrastructure to universities, those who enter universities with the free SHS and double track. The government is taking care at the tertiary level. So we still start now, and that is what is happening. Laboratory, dormitory, dining hall, you name them. All these things are deficits. They remain uncompleted. So government is seeking loan to complete all these things. And what is going around is everywhere. It cut across the country. In my constituency, for instance, Jamandov, this is Sampa Islamic. And that is where KG Block, since time immemorial, KG Block.
That's what they've been using.
They've been using.
Another effort to get this replaced?
Yes, Nanado has come with a vision that all KG Block, about 1,000 of them, should be built. And this one has been built to replace it.
Okay, hold it for the camera. So this is the new block.
This is the new block
replacing the old one.
This is the new block to replace the new ones. And it has everything. Siesta, if the child wants to relax, everything is inside. When the child enters here in this classroom, he comes out as if he has now been bathed. And water, everything is there. Okay. It's a new set. If you want to build education, the foundation should not be left. You should have a solid foundation. Education facilities these days, children compare schools, facilities available, and it serves as a motivation or demotivation. If their facilities are not good like the way you've shown us, people will not attend school, and because their mates elsewhere will be making mockery of them.
Let me ask for Honorable Bayon, for instance, Yaru's library, exactly how should we support them to get the library finished and fixed with books?
Well, there are a lot of options. Either one, the district assembly may have to purchase some books. I, as the MP, if I also acquire some books, I can add to the stock. Or we can appeal to NGOs that have education at heart to also come in and complement. Because for a library, I don't think even the stock of books should just come from one source. It should come from different sources so that it is a variety.
And that's a promise that you at least help to facilitate.
Yes, I will. I will. Because Yaro actually is in my heart. Why? Because that is a community, Mr. Bright, that since 1992, our party have tried and tried and tried to win that box there. Okay. We have always failed until last elections, 2016, we won the place. So we at least this will let them know that they have now gone for the right choice.
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up the conversation. Sorry about that. We promise to get to more of this later on. My guests have been Member of Parliament for German North Constituency and the Chair of Parliament Select Committee on Education, Honorable Shekhar Stevens, and Member of Parliament for Wa East, Honorable Godfrey Bayon. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for joining us this morning. We're back same time tomorrow, but stay right here on TV3. Have a good morning.